Welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm, having a successful accounting, bookkeeping, and tax business. I'm Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center, and I've been working with accounting professionals now for more than 20 years, helping them individually and as a firm grow their businesses so as to offer quality accounting services with confidence and competence. I also represent Universal Accounting Center. It's an accounting school for accounting professionals to receive the training, the certification, support, and coaching needed to start and build successful businesses. With that in mind, this is a great opportunity for you to find out more about Universal Accounting and see what it is that Universal can do to help you in your career to get you paid what you're worth. Now, today we actually have a few things that we want to mention as a reminder. First of all, this podcast is dedicated to helping accounting professionals confidently offer quality accounting services to their clients so that they can be offering the premier accounting services in their area. So we invite you to listen to our other episodes as well as subscribe to this podcast so that you can get additional updates as to when new episodes become available. Today, we actually have a special guest. She happens to be from the Netherlands, and Femke happens to be the owner of a Profit First professional organization. She's the author and speaker and entrepreneur who finds opportunities in business. She is an entrepreneur to build a healthy financial business and profitable company and teaches accounting professionals to become profit advisors so that they can help their clients achieve their goals. Her books became bestsellers in the Netherlands, and as of March 31st, her second book, The Profit Advisor, is now available to the world as well. So with that, I'd like to welcome Femke to the show. Femke, welcome.
Thank you, Roger. I'm excited to be here.
So this is going to be somewhat exciting because I think you have a unique perspective that our listeners need to hear, in so much that you've got a lot of marketing advice, a lot of service advice, but I really would like to get to the start. What got you introduced to the accounting profession?
Well, to the accounting profession, it's actually, I started my business in finance about 20 years ago, I guess, as a financial controller. And I was on the other end. So I did work with accountants, but I was a financial controller for some large businesses and some smaller businesses. And I kind of realized quickly that finance is essential for any business. And I didn't understand why businesses had so much trouble working with finance and talking about money and projecting and taking their finance seriously and even taking their accountant seriously. So that's where it started.
So as you interacted back then 20 years ago with accounting professionals, what did you find was maybe missing, and what did you feel needed to change over the last 20 years as you've been working with them?
Well, it's actually the fact that accountants are most accountants that I meet are not aware of the fact that they are so much an expert in their field that they don't really relate to the real questions that their clients are having. Accountants use technical language and talk about journals and journal entries and balance sheets, and the questions of their clients are about completely different things. It's not about journals. We want to talk about profit and market opportunities. And this gap between the expertise of an accountant and the real need of an entrepreneur is too big.
So what I hear you describing, I think, is very, very true, because as accounting professionals, we see things, we want to talk about things, we want to draw attention to things that we're noticing, but too often we don't bring out the relevance, how it actually applies to the business owner. And so as we're speaking to the presidents of the companies, the owners of the companies, they don't have the context of the discussion to really understand or appreciate why this matters. And so as I'm hearing you describe that, what I'm hearing is, as an accounting professional, we're excited. We found some things that they need to be aware of, paying attention to. These things could really make a difference in the business, but the business owner isn't hearing it in a way that it matters or is relevant to them to make a decision that can change the situation. And so all of a sudden, you've got this communication disconnect, and you're unique in the sense that Obviously, English is not the predominant language in the Netherlands, so I'm assuming that you have an appreciation for how languages can sometimes not communicate best what the listener needs to hear, but
Yeah.
accountants speak accounting. It's the language of
Yes.
business. Business owners speak profit, they speak sales, they speak margins, and sometimes we think we're talking about the same thing, but in reality, we're not on the same page. So, how would you
Exactly.
share that? How would you speak to that?
Well, this is exactly one of the biggest problems, Roger. And um, accountants often say, like, well, but that's not me. I speak clear language. And they might speak clear language, but it's about the connection that's missing. For example, an accountant may say to their client, we need to make a cost price calculation. And the client would be like, well, I don't need a cost price calculation. I just need to make more money. So just by changing the language to let me help you to make more money will help the client to say, yes, how can we do that? And then you can throw in your cost price calculation. So, and if you ask me how should they make this transition, it's actually by really listening to your clients and write down the words that they are using. Funnily, when you go to a communication skills course, they teach you that you should summarize what your client says in your own words.
Hmm.
And I think that's the worst advice that you could get. You should actually not use your words. You should always use the words your clients speak, because then you will resonate with them. So by listening better and using the same words your clients use, they will find a connection with you.
Excellent advice, because when we speak, I think it's only natural that as the other person is speaking, we in our minds are contemplating what we're going to say next. When they take a breath, when they pause, here's what I'm going to say next. When in reality,
Yes.
what you just suggested is more important. We need to, before we share or say anything more, we need to clearly explain, here's what I've understood you share. This is what I'm hearing you say. And using their own words, see if we're communicating and understanding. Then we can go to that next level. And so
Yeah.
your point is, I think, very appropriate, because in accounting, so much gets lost. I think a good example of what you just shared is similar to like a break even point in business. They just want to make more sales. But what we may be interested in knowing is how many sales does it take to cover the fixed costs? Until you make this much in revenue, you're going to not be doing well. So you need to have this many sales. Well, the discussion matters, but it only matters if it's in the context that the business owner can appreciate it.
Yes, definitely. So, what I use in my book is a very short structure. I call it LSA: listen, summarize, ask questions. And this is the 3 steps that you should use in any conversation. What becomes a bit more complex than just talking about how nice the weather is today.
Good.
So,
So, well,
yeah.
well, let's go back to your book. Let me back up a little bit. You were describing that 20 years ago you were working as a financial person interacting with accounting professionals in business. You later broke out on your own, started your own business, and started writing some books. Tell us about you going out on your own and why you wrote the books you wrote.
Well, the first book is really cool because I was actually asked by a publisher to write a book, and well, even in the Netherlands, probably like in the US, writing a book is one, but having it published is something else.
Yes.
So the fact that someone asked me, "Can you please write a book?" was really cool, and they asked me because they found out that I was both pretty strong in finance and in communicating about finance. So the first book I wrote was called Finance for Solopreneurs. And it was actually about the old school finance, about balance sheets and profit and loss accounts and taxes and all the old school finance stuff. But I wrote it in a very practical, usable, and even fun way. So that was my first book. And that writing that book got me into the business of teaching entrepreneurs how to build a financially healthy and profitable company. So that's where I started. I gave trainings, did some coaching, went on stage, on radio, and then actually what happened next is, because I've been talking about old school finance stuff, is I got introduced to the Profit First system. And I don't know if your listeners have heard about the Profit First system earlier, but it's from the US. It's from Mike Michalowicz. And I completely fell in love with the system, because I thought this is something all entrepreneurs should know. And it's not about old school finance. It's not about P&L sheets, but it's about making a profit and managing your finance based on bank accounts. So that's where my Profit First journey started. I also brought the book to the Netherlands. We got it translated and got it published in the Netherlands. And then I found out, okay, now I'm working with entrepreneurs. I'm also working with accountants to help them implement the Profit First system with their clients. Then I figured I have a message for accountants as well. I don't only have a message for entrepreneurs, I have a message for accountants. So that's when I wrote my own second book, The Profit Advisor. And that's the book that's currently translated into English, so it will be available worldwide. And then actually, to finish off the story, I wrote a third book, and it's called Profitable Plans. It's not translated yet, but I'm expecting it will be next year.
So that journey, first of all, starting with a publisher asking you to write a book, quite unique, and I think that's probably a story in and of itself. But you went from writing that book to then getting involved with Mike Michalowicz with Profit First, bringing that into the Netherlands as you have successfully. You've translated that book and since written 2 more books. So what I'd
Yeah.
like to ask is, what is your message? What's your legacy that you're building right now? What are you trying to take to the business community as you've written these 3 books and teamed up with Profit First? What is your passion there?
Yeah, thank you. I love this question, because my passion is truly that I believe entrepreneurs are so important for the whole world. Entrepreneurs are innovative, they take risks, they they are important to the world, to the economy, to the environment. And the problem with entrepreneurs is that they don't do their financial things. They don't like finance. They don't like bookkeeping. They even don't like accountants. And that's a real problem, because when you don't take your finances seriously, you are not going to have a healthy business. And this is where companies go bankrupt. But even if they don't go bankrupt, they just don't realize their full potential. And if they would be more profitable and would have a financially more healthy company, they would be way stronger to realize their full potential and change the world. And this is my message.
Well, what you're sharing there is similar to what Mike's is with Profit First, of eradicating entrepreneurial poverty. And I agree with you. The entrepreneur is so much the foundation of our economy. And when you work with these individuals, these men and women who have a passion, who have a dream, who have a goal, it's very contagious. They're great to work with, because as you interact with them, you start to realize that their excitement for life is contagious, and you can kind of tap into that and really enjoy a lot of the things that they do, because they're movers and shakers. They make things happen. And as an accounting profession, when we can step in and help channel that energy and help them be profitable and make things work so that they can really grow their businesses and bless not only their customers, but hire more employees and do so in a in a cash flow positive way, it relieves so much stress that I think oftentimes we really make it possible for these businesses to do better than they may have even thought possible.
Yes.
And one of the things that I think is also key is, although stress can be very motivating, and stress can be in some cases the one of the catalysts to be an innovator, or help an entrepreneur create something that didn't exist before, because that stress is so motivating. It's also realistic to believe that that stress can also be debilitating. And what we want to do as accounting professionals is, through proper cash flow management strategies, through making profit a priority, is help advise them so that they can run their businesses in an effective way, so that they can literally revolutionize the world with their product, their service, and really make a difference. So I love that passion that you're obviously speaking to, because it's caused you to write now 3 books, become
Yeah.
very involved. You speak, you're on the radio, you're doing this podcast. I mean, there's a lot going on. So let me ask you, what important values do you have in your own business that keep you grounded?
Um, so I have the value, I think it's a very important value of honesty, but I think that's a value that most entrepreneurs will have. So if I take it a bit further, if it's about how to do my business, I do have these values of making finance fun, practical, and usable. And that's a value that accountants, or a value that's something that accountants should try to do, in my opinion, because if you only work with compliancy stuff and make sure that the taxes are filed correctly, you're looking just you're doing historical work. And if you try to make finance practical and usable, and maybe I should even say looking at the future instead of the past, then you are actually helping entrepreneurs achieve their goals.
Good.
So yeah, so practical, usable, and I'm not sure if that's a word, but looking into the future.
Yes, yes. Well, I think honesty is very important, but I like how you've gone deeper with that. So thank you. So let me ask a question regarding being a profit advisor. Your book speaks to that. What does it mean?
Yeah. So a profit advisor is really someone who is talking with their clients to find out what are the goals of the client, and then helping the client achieve those goals. So profit is about financial goals, but I think profit might also be about personal goals. And it doesn't really matter what the goals of your clients are. It could be about going on an early retirement, or buying a house in France, or having your kids go to college without student loans, or um, going on a very long trip for 6 months, traveling the world. Whatever the goals of your clients are, you should know those goals, and you should help your clients actually achieve them. And that's a whole different story than just doing the books.
You know, how you describe that, I think, is so true, because our listeners, I think, can relate to the fact that when you work with a client and you do it correctly, it moves beyond just preparing financial reports. It becomes a relationship, a friendship. You can literally get to know not just their business, but them as an individual. And as you mentioned, their personal goals. Why are they doing this?
Yeah.
And you get to
Yes.
celebrate when they go on a vacation, and you get
Yeah.
to celebrate as their children graduate college and so forth. I mean, these things are life events. And if you're embedded enough with the client and helping them achieve these financial goals, you're going to be a participant in that success. And I like how
Yes.
you were able to personalize that, because it's not just preparing the reports, it's getting to know our clients, getting to know who they are, and really add some additional value. So this is going to be an important question. As you work with accounting professionals and help them recognize that they can have this kind of relationship with their clients, what are those additional values that we should be offering as accounting professionals that we not see are obvious? What should we be doing as accounting professionals? How should the profession change?
So one of the things is that, of course, the books still need to be done, but doing the books should, in my opinion, be something what takes at the least amount of time, energy, and money as possible of both the client and the accountant. And the time and energy should actually go towards talking about the goals and planning for profit. And also, the accountant should um, phone up your client more often and ask him about, okay, so you wanted to do more sales on a particular product or a particular service. How is this going? Are you doing it? And how come you're not? And how can I help you to do what you need to do? And too often accountants don't have the time to help their clients with these strategic questions. They're so busy with the compliance work. And so one of the things is that you should actually make your business more efficient and make sure that your client does the finances more efficient. So everybody has time on his hands to talk about the issues that really matter.
So the thing that I think is important about your example there is it illustrates very well that, first of all, we need to know what the goals of the client are. What are the things that they intend to do in their business in the coming months and quarter and year? And what are those specifically going to look like in the financials, which is why we would prepare either forecasts or budgets. But the thing that I liked about it is you described the financial reports, the historical information, as not the goal or the purpose. They're a means to an end.
Yeah.
Once we have that information, we're able to now ask the right questions and find out how things are progressing within the business towards the objectives they have. And then you're able to ask deeper questions as to what needs to change. How would that look differently? And the secret isn't in our having the answers, it's our having the right questions to ask to help the business owner think through what they need to be doing next in their business to achieve the goals that they have. And the foundation of this entire discussion is the historical financial reports we've got in front of us. They're telling us a story, and we're able to now, with the client, help them now see what they need to be putting attention to. So I liked how you described that. That was a good example.
Yes, and if I can add one thing to it, because one of the big challenges for accountants is that they want to, for example, ask higher prices and be paid for the value they create. And when a client sees you as just an accountant, and he doesn't see that you are actually adding value to achieving those goals, he doesn't really feel the need to pay you more money because, well, he needs you as an accountant, but you're not really helping him grow his business. So as soon as you can start asking those questions and spending more time on the goals of the entrepreneur, he does perceive that you are adding value, and then there won't be an issue paying you more money.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because the thing that I think is important is the fact that as accounting professionals, when we're adding these additional values, what we're able to do now is move beyond the bookkeeping, accounting services, and start working in more the advisory role, the consultative role. And it's for those roles that we're paid more. So this is an additional revenue stream. This is an added service that we're providing that we can now provide and get paid more for. So I love what you've described, Femke, because what's happening here is we're in a situation where, as we're having these conversations with the clients, we become more needed, more necessary in their business decision-making processes, and that's helpful. So I like how you described that just a moment ago. So let me ask you this: if accountants could start doing one thing to better help their clients, what would it be?
Well, the one thing that they should do, and I think we already addressed it a little bit, but might be good to address it again, is as soon as they start asking more questions instead of trying to provide all the answers, they are really building the relationship with their clients. Accountants have an education where they have been learned or taught to answer questions. So they are in a question answering profession. And to be able to really connect with your client and the issues and questions and goals your client is having, you should ask more questions, and you should even refrain from giving answers too quickly, because as soon as you give an answer too quickly, you might not have really gone to the depth of the question, and that's where you are losing business. You're losing business by answering questions too quickly.
Well, I like how you described the importance of the questions because that's very, very true. Years and years ago, when I was learning how to best consult and offer consultative services, one of the best pieces of advice I had received was it's not that I was supposed to have all the answers, but more importantly, I was supposed to have all the right questions. And a business owner doesn't expect someone to walk in and tell them how to run their company, but what they're open to is someone who challenges them and asks the right questions to get them to think differently than they are on their own. And so when we move into more advisory or consultative services, we have to understand that the power isn't in that we have all the answers to questions. More importantly, it's in the fact that we have all the questions that need to be asked, and we may be the only one asking those questions. And so there's a lot of power there. So really what they're paying us for isn't just the information, it's truly that we're getting them to think differently because of the questions we're asking. There's the power in what the service is that we're providing. So I love how you describe that in just the power of the question.
And Roger, it's a huge challenge, because once an accountant asks a question, then there comes a reaction, and then the accountant is tempted to give an answer. So I think the way to stop giving answers so quickly is to train yourself to summarize the question, or sorry, to summarize the reaction your client gave you, and then train yourself to ask another question. So you might want to ask 4 or 5 questions before trying to give an answer. And that's just training. It's like working out and doing one extra push-up, asking one more question.
So in that example, do you have maybe a piece of advice that we could use as accounting professionals as to maybe what questions we ought to be asking that we may not be thinking of?
Yes, so one of my favorite questions is, as a follow-up question, is, for example, say someone tells you about a specific goal, like raising profit with 1%. You could go right into the answer, like, okay, we could cut some costs, or we could raise prices. But before you go there, you can ask your client, so why is it so important for you to raise your profit with 1%? Or what would it mean to you if we actually did raise your profit with 1%? Or what would you do with 1% more profit? And by asking those questions, you might find out that profit is not the real goal. The real goal might be to work less hours, or to have more fun while working, or so you go deeper and get a better feeling of the real question, what lies beneath it. And those questions that I just asked are one of my favorites, like, what does it mean to you if? That's one of my favorite questions.
That is a gem.
But also another gem of a question might be very easy, like, can you tell me a little bit more about it? Or just say, because is not a real question, but it does make someone else to continue talking, and then you go deeper again.
Yes, one of the phrases I was taught years ago is a phrase of, why do you say that? So after someone has
Yes.
spoken and after they've shared their bit of information, to follow it up with, wow, I really like that. I liked how you described this and this. So why do you say it that way?
Yes.
And by doing so, what we do is we open the dialogue to have them kind of go deeper and maybe even get at an emotional level rather than just
Yes.
at that cerebral level, the thought level. So what we want to do is kind of find those questions that we can ask and have in our suitcase of information to draw upon so that we can now dive deeper with our clients and get more to the essence of what we're talking about. I like that. That's very, very good.
Yes, and I think I can give another tip on how to actually do this,
Uh-huh.
because when you really look at any conversation has a few items in it that you will see anytime. So there's always a problem or a question or an issue. So that's one side of the conversation. And then there's always a solution or a direction you want to go to. So that's one part of the conversation. But there are also always obstacles, always things in between the current situation and where you want to go. And those obstacles form a part of the conversation. And if you know that these elements are in every conversation, you can train yourself to get to know more about all the separate elements. So before jumping from the first element to the second element, find out if you can get more inside information about one element.
Very good. So, with all of that information, let me break away here real quickly for a sponsor mention so that we can actually take care of this very quickly for those that are making this episode possible. So, first and foremost, Universal Accounting Center is making available a copy of a book that you've already heard mention of here today. Femke alluded to the book Profit First. And so, if you would like, go to the episode description and get a copy of the ebook Profit First. And with that, you'll be able to see what it is you can be doing in your company to actually make profit deliberate and intentional. Secondly, I'd like to also mention that we would love to actually share a link with you to get a copy of Femke's book. It's basically out now in English, and this book is specifically meant to help you as it's the profit advisor, and it's really intended to actually help you in your role as, in fact, a profit advisor for your clients. So go to the episode description here, and in doing so, you'll actually get the information you need to get a copy of her book. And in doing so, start applying these principles in your company. So, Femke, as we kind of wrap up the conversation today, and before I summarize everything and get a final thought from you, I did want to ask you a few real quick questions about your business. Do you have a mantra or a quote that you use as you run your own company?
Oh, wow. Yes. What's my mantra? Um, I think I find it very important to look at what is possible instead of what is not possible.
Very good. It pushes you, it drives you, I would imagine.
Yes, it does.
Very good. And do you have something that you're passionate about within your business, something that you're very excited about in the coming months and year?
Well, I am very excited about creating new things. So, writing books is something that I completely love. It's like a passion. So I'm excited to find out what my new book is about. I don't know yet myself, but I know at some point I will know what it will be about. And I just love to write books, but I also love to create other stuff like new courses and new insights. And so that's what excites me, to just be out there and create things.
You are a creative person. That's wonderful.
Yes.
So here's an interesting question. What is a challenge that you had to face, perhaps in business, and how did you overcome it? But what more importantly did you learn from that?
The biggest challenge, and I'm sure people will be able to relate to it, is that I have been thinking for many years that I was the only one who could do things. And I found out two things. One is there are other people who can actually do those things. So I don't have to do everything by myself anymore, but I have my team to do their things. But I also found out something way more important, and that's that they actually do things better than I do. And it took me many years to learn this. And I think it's a big change in my business to be able to really relate on other people, to take responsibility for their part of the business. And that's the only way to grow a business.
That's a huge learning. There's something there for myself as well, because we do get caught up in this mentality of oftentimes we can only do it or we can do it best. And in reality, there are some people that just have a better talent or knack for something. And if we can just empower them and give them some direction, they really can take things much farther than we could have and much better than we would have. So
Yes, yes.
that's a leap of faith oftentimes on our part, but when you find that good individual, that person oftentimes has passions, skills, talents that I myself don't have, and that's great. So let me kind of recap a little bit of what I've heard today, and then Femke, I'd love to get your final thoughts. The thing I'd like to recap with is the fact that I believe Femke's helped us realize as accounting professionals that we have so much more to offer our clients, and that when we look at our services, I think we need to recognize that accounting is just the beginning of the process. The numbers, the reports that we're providing are but an information source for us to go to the clients and really help them better understand their own businesses, to help them run and more intelligently make business decisions. But the thing that I'd like to also take from this is I think Femke really pointed out that it really comes down to our then asking the right questions, and in doing so, helping us become more involved with the clients that we're working with so that we can be that trusted strategic advisor, so that we can consult them. And the power comes from the questions that we're asking. Having that powerful question to get them to think outside of what they're thinking now and challenge them to see things in a different way is a powerful talent. And if we're able to leverage that in our business to bring it to the service of our clients, they're going to pay us handsomely for the perspective we're bringing to the challenges that they're facing. So I like how we were able to at least bring that to light. And then the other thing that I like about Femke is the fact that she really helped us identify as accounting professionals that we have a value, a service to the entrepreneurial community, that we really can make a difference. And so I appreciate with her own books and with her own passion that it's enabling us to see that we have a purpose and a place in this whole economy scheme of things, if you will. So, Femke, are there any final thoughts that you would like to share?
I think your summary was excellent. And what you ended your summary is actually what my final thought would be is accountants sometimes don't realize that they already have all the knowledge and many of the skills that are needed. We know when looking at the financials of our clients, we know what's keeping our clients from doing better. But it's just to trust yourself that you already know how to help your client and actually start doing it.
Excellent. I'm going to take that as permission to do so. I think that is perfect.
Right.
Yeah. So, with
Yes.
that in mind, let me just basically thank you for being on the show and encourage everyone listening that for more information, you can actually go to universalaccountingschool.com for more information on how you can actually get the training, certification, coaching, and support that you need to build the premier accounting firm in your area. I also encourage you to listen to our other episodes as well as subscribe to this podcast and get additional information so that you can, in fact, with confidence and competence, be the premier accounting firm in your area. So thank you everyone for listening in. And if you'd like to, you can give us a phone call and speak to us directly at Universal Accounting at 801-265-3777. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care, and Femke, thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger.